Hello, and welcome to another brand new episode of Books with Not Just Breathe. If this pandemic year has taught me anything, beside the fact that how unhygienic my life was pre pandemic, is the fact that I need to find happiness and laughter in everything. And if I have developed something during this pandemic, aside from the 101 phobias, it's a morbid sense of humor. And hence, in today's episode, I wanted to talk about the two most morbidly interesting books that I've recently read and that probably you can give a read to. So, if this is a topic that interests you, do continue watching and also do consider subscribing to my channel by clicking on the subscribe button below. You would get notifications of videos as and when I upload them. I try to upload videos every week, usually on a Saturday. Anyways, back to business. We are going to talk about two most morbidly interesting books that I have read and that I recommend that you may give it a read as well. The first book that I want to talk about is The Psychopath Test, A Journey Through the Madness Industry. This is a book by a journalist turned author called Ronson, and he tries to delve into the world of psychopaths. John is a journalist and he wants to know about the common traits of psychopaths. He goes around interviewing people who study psychopathy, and in the process, he also interviews quite a few psychopaths. So, as he sets about this quest to know more about psychopaths, and he meets some of the very renowned names in the field of psychopathic study, as well as some infamous psychopaths. He also is looking for almost a checklist to determine who a psychopath is or not, or a checklist which will determine if one has psychopathic traits or not. Psychopaths are everywhere. Many high functional people are actually psychopaths, and that is pretty much the summary of the book. So if you are a newbie into the world of psychopathy, or if you are interested and intrigued to know about such topic, I think it is a very interesting book. This isn't a book that goes deep into the subject. It is pretty much gives you a view of what psychopathy is. And lets you meet some of these psychopaths that you may or may not be aware of, and then at the very end gives you sort of a checklist that you could also use to figure out who are the psychopaths around you. And I think that was the most interesting part for me in this book. While I did enjoy John Ronson's quest for understanding psychopaths more closely, and also I did enjoy some of his interviews with these psychopaths that he tracked down and that he talked to. What was most interesting and intriguing for me is this list that he finally talks about in this book. And I had a field time, trying to imagine the various people in my life and trying to see if they how much they would score on this list and see if they were psychopaths. And one interesting fact about psychopaths or psychopathy is that it is not declared as a treatable mental illness. So you are either a psychopath or you're not. You cannot be cured of your psychopathic traits. It is a trait that you have. Sometimes it is subdued, sometimes it isn't, and that is what defines whether you are an infamous, renowned, everybody knows kind of psychopath, or these traits are just hidden inside you for it to come out later, in some scenarios. As I said, I did like this book. It isn't going to give you a deep dive into psychopathy or into psychopaths, but it's a good first time read if you are into this kind of a genre. The second book on this list of morbidly interesting books is Stiff, The Curious Lives of Human Cadavers. Now, this book, hands down, is one of the funniest books that I have read in the last year or so. Given this book is all about dead bodies, human dead bodies, I rate it as the most morbidly funny book that I've ever read. This book has been written by Mary Roach, who is an American journalist, and she sets out to research on what happens to human bodies after they've died. This book is infinitely insightful about the large number of industries that are there around human dead bodies, and what happens to human dead bodies. And I, for one, wasn't even aware that there is so much that is being done with human cadavers. I mean, the most common thing that comes to mind is for medical research, but I was so astonished to see that there are so many of these industries that feed heavily on human dead bodies. So she talks about 12 mainstream industries which heavily depend on human dead bodies. Now, whilst I would love to talk about each of these, but I think it is going to take away some of the awe that you might get if you do pick up this book and read. I know the subject of death and human dead bodies isn't very enticing, especially in these days, but the way Mary Roach has approached the subject, I think it is going to be a really hilarious and funny read. Why do I like this book so much? Now, as I said, for me, it is how Mary Roach has approached this subject, this morbid subject of death and after death. Given how truly morbid the subject is, only the right amount of humor can take away the glumness without making it, too frivolous. And I think she's been able to do exactly that. Her writing style is absolutely hilarious, often bordering on deadpan. I hope you excuse that pun. I have laughed out loud on many instances while reading this book. She also does touch upon some truly sensitive subjects in the book, such as who decides what happens to a dead body after death. For example, we often hear of people writing in their wills or telling their loved ones what they want to be done to their body once they die. Sometimes they say that I want my body to be given up for research. Sometimes they say that I want my body to be cremated, and sometimes they want other things to be done to their bodies after they pass away. But she brings a very important question towards the very end on who should really be taking the decision. Is it the one who is dying, or is it the ones that this person has left behind? In conclusion, Stiff, The Curious Lives of Human Cadavers is a book par excellence, which talks with appropriate mirth and respect about a subject that all of the living would likely avoid most time of their lives. Now, I would confess that with this book, I've sort of fallen in love with Mary Roach's style of writing, and I want to continue reading many of the other books, some of the other books that she has written. And I just hope that these are half as funny as this one, and that would already make my day. So these are the two books that I call the morbidly interesting books and that I enjoyed reading in the past year or so. I do recommend you to read these books as well, and I would love to hear what you think about this book. So with that, I come to the very end of this particular episode. If you liked it, then do like and share this video, and also do subscribe to my channel. So until I see you next week, wherever you are, stay safe, stay healthy. Bye for now.